We've now got Chris on the line from Black Stone Cherry, talking all about you've got a brand new EP that comes out on the 6th of March called Celebrate. I was just looking at the EP, and this is the follow-up, I suppose, to Screaming at the Sky from 2023. At 7 tracks long, it feels like it's about 3 tracks short of an album. Why an EP rather than a follow-up album, I suppose?
And we just wanted to try something different, really, man. We live in a world where we digest and consume things faster than ever. When it comes to arts and things, just things in general. So, we put out "Screaming at the Sky," and then we toured for the better part of 2 years on it, and then last year we went in and made the new EP and did some more touring. To the point, small package. Here you go. You know what I mean? And just try something different, man. I mean, our albums are typically 12 to 13 songs. So we wanted to go somewhere around half that and just try something different, really, give you 7 songs that you're never going to, I mean, obviously it's the goal to never have people skip a song on an album. But, when you narrow it down to 7 songs that you truly wholeheartedly believe in, I don't know, man. It just feels like a great package, and it was the right time to try something different more than anything.
Watch me send, who's listening? Been locked in savage prison. Must escape from this place and say goodbye to self-hate.
Regardless of whether it's an album or an EP, in order to get your 7 songs, is that 7 songs you went into the studio and you wrote, or is that 24 songs that you whittle down to the 7 that you want to do? How does that sort of songwriting process go for you?
I would say it was probably a culmination of about 18 to 20 ideas that turned into probably 12 songs, and not all the songs got finished. Like it would just be something doesn't feel right about it. We're stuck on this spot. Let's come back to it. Perfect example of that is "Celebrate." Right. So when we first wrote "Celebrate," it had a totally different verse melody, but everything else was the same. And we wrote that song. We had the chorus, we had a verse, and listening back to it, like it's the verse could be something better, And so we ended up rewriting the whole verses for that song, and doing that. But yeah, it's always a collection, and then either you pick the ones or they pick you. And more so than not, I would say these 7 songs picked us. Well, the 6 that we wrote, and then the cover tune, obviously, we picked it. But the 6 songs that we wrote that are on the EP, it feels more like the music tracks to those just kind of spoke to us and said, "Write me," if that makes any sense. And then when the songs were finished, it was just like, okay, well, that one's got to go on there, and this one, and then we want this one for the balance, and
Submission, prescriptions, this isn't what I vision. Celebrate, you made it through another one today. By the way, you're not the only one who gets afraid. It's okay to freak out or reach out or hit your knees and pray. Celebrate, you made it through another one today.
Was it a different writing process than it was for an album? It feels like, listening to it, I mean, it feels like Black Stone Cherry, which is a strange thing to say because obviously it is, but I can sort of hear songs from numerous albums on there. So is there sometimes the when you're writing an album to sort of keep it within the remit of the album you're writing? This one felt like you wrote songs that came from various times in your career and just put them out there.
man, we wrote everything around the same time, the same couple of months. But I like that. That's interesting. That you can feel bits and pieces of everything from it. And we didn't have any kind of concept or anything when we started writing. We were just like, "Hey, has anybody got that riff we did at sound check?" And then somebody pulls out a phone, pulls up their voice notes, and we listen to the guitar riff, and then away we go. We're sitting in there, the 4 of us in a room. I My favorite thing about the writing this time was we weren't on the back of the bus because that gets really, really crowded. We were actually at Ben's house in the basement. He's got a studio room down there. and we were everybody had room, kind of stretch their legs and really, really kind of get comfortable and truly take in what you're doing, because when you're all cramped up in the back lounge, something might be good, but not great. And you'll be like, yeah, man, it's awesome just to be able to get out of that confined space sometimes, but when everybody's free, the opinions are a little more honest sometimes. There's no rush to get away from anything.
This silence, it deafens, sometimes louder than weapons. The reason I'm leaving to find a change in seasons. I know just how you feel. I know the pain is all too real. Depression incessant. This time I've learned my lesson. Celebrate, you made it through another one today.
And you got the video. There's a video out for Celebrate, I think is the latest single from it, and that's a great sort of tell us a bit about the song. I mean, it's sort of about inclusion and celebrating life.
And man, it's literally that whole song was born out of we live in a world that, whether it be through the internet, through the news, whatever, people want to talk negative and bring others down for whatever reason. And more oftentimes than not, there are little things that we do that we should celebrate. I, for one, speaking as a person who has been open about mental health struggles for a long time, just getting up and getting through the day and getting the things done that you intended to that day sometimes is a huge accomplishment, and there's nothing wrong with patting yourself on the back for that and celebrating that you did it. I mean, we're so quick to point fingers and so shy to celebrate in our times of joy. Sometimes, it's so much easier to go, well, 6 out of 10 things went great for the day, so let's focus on the 4 that went bad so we can make sure it doesn't happen again. Or you could say 6 things out of 10 went awesome. That is better than, not. So it's the song is really more or less just an eye opener of going, don't be afraid to celebrate things that maybe other people wouldn't, because it's your life, it's your story, it's your celebration. You do your thing.
Celebrate, you made it through another one today. By the way, you're not the only one who gets afraid. It's okay to freak out or reach out or hit your knees and pray. Celebrate, you made it through another one today. Celebrate.
And is that something you've learned? Like you say, you've been open in talking about mental health, and from my experiences of it and understanding, it's vital to talk about it because people don't talk about it, and the more you talk about it, it is cathartic. Your struggles and your experiences can help others. And is that something you found important to do?
100%. Dude, I've had people thank me. I've had people chastise me for being open about mental health. It's gone both ways, and I don't care, because at the end of the day, if I'm able to talk about that and that relieves some of my own anxieties, and if it gets through to one single person, then it's all worth it, man. I mean, there's songs on this EP. Celebrate, Deep is another song. Show Me What You're Made Of. They're all songs that are personal and heartfelt songs.
And also on there, you've got the Simple Minds cover. Don't You Forget About Me with Tyler Connolly from Theory of a Dead Man.
Yes,
now,
sir.
as I suppose that's a contrast to some of the other things we've been talking about. But tell us how that managed to come to fruition.
I have been vocally shouting from the rooftops that I wanted us to do a version of that song since about our second record, probably. No joke. I've just always loved that song. As does a lot of the world. But when I remember being a kid, I was born in 1985, same year The Breakfast Club came out. The Breakfast Club and Nintendo both debuted that year. So it's a pretty good year if you add me in there. But no, man. I remember seeing that movie when I was younger. Probably 4 or 5 years old, late '80s, early '90s, and that song just stuck with me. That and the fist pump were the two things from that movie that stuck with me. Were that song and that. And man, we played a festival with Simple Minds several years back. I remember as soon as that song kicked in, I ran out into the crowd, with all the other Swiss people there and was fist pumping along, singing every word. But I just always thought that song sounded like it could be a really heavy rock song. Every time I heard it, like from the snare crack, pop, down, down, dun, and I was like, that could be heavy and like sound like it was written that way, at least in my mind. And so we started working on a demo of it, and it started sounding like a Black Stone Cherry song. So we were like, you know what, man, let's go for this thing and see what happens.
Want to come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, babe. Tell me your troubles and doubts, giving everything inside and out, and love strange.
And how did Tyler get involved with it?
So we've known the Theory Camp for a really, really long time. And we reached out and we were like, hey, man, because the label had been like, would you guys be up for any collaborations? It's collaborations are a pretty big thing today. A lot of bands are doing it. And we were like, well, yeah, as long as it makes sense, hell yeah, who wouldn't want to get their friends on a song with them, So we reached out and Tyler was like, hell yeah, I'd love to. And it was that simple. I mean, literally, I sent a text message, hey, dude, would you want to sing on our version of Don't You? And he was like, hell yes, be awesome. But we go back with those dudes. We've known some of the Theory Camp since before we ever had a record deal. John, Fred, and Ben went to see them play with Three Doors Down. I think it was when we were kids, man, and just recorded our demo rock and roll tape. And they gave them a CD, and I remember they commented back on our message board on our GeoCity site, thanked us for the album and stuff. We've been friends ever since, man.
Love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things that we were working on. Slow change may pull us apart. When the light gets into your heart, baby, don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me.
And this whole EP, is it self-produced? Have you done this yourself?
Yes. Yeah, we self-produced it. It was engineered by Jordan Westfall and our late buddy who passed this December, actually, was an engineer on it as well, Mr. Mark Owens. He'll be greatly missed. He was a huge part of the BSC team. And then Jordan mixed it together. So we had a lot of fun with it, man. We did it all in a little studio that's not big as nothing, but it sounds great.
But does this set the trend for the next album? Would you want to do this for a full album?
Oh yeah, we've self-produced since the Kentucky record. So we haven't worked with a producer since 2013 or 14. Yeah, and it's nothing against producers. We worked with some of the best. We worked with Joe Barresi, Howard Benson, Bob Marlette, John Fred's dad, and David from the studio. Richard's a platinum selling, Grammy winning artist, So we've had notable people producing our records every time we've done that. We just, man, I think we got to a point we were like, we know what we want to sound like. We can hear the difference between a good part and a bad part for our songs. So it's always been the weirdest thing to me that a record label, and luckily we don't have to worry about this. We've got a great relationship with Mascot. But like in the early days, a record label would sign a band back in the day and then immediately want to start changing stuff about the band or start getting them with songwriters and this and that and the other. And I'm like, I understand, like these guys are fantastic at their jobs, but if you sign the band, why not put out what they do first and then see what you need to do with it, see how it reacts. But we don't live in that world. Luckily, we put our first record out in 2006 when record labels were still developing bands. So we were able to do our first record, see how it went, then go work with some other people. We recorded in Kentucky, Nashville, LA, but being able to record in Kentucky and go home and get in your own bed at night's pretty badass. Ain't gonna lie.
So talking about the UK, you're back over here playing dates in October, and in fact, one of the tracks on the album, "Neon Eyes," the video for which was at Made of Stone last year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And you've got 20 dates in the UK, and the UK has always been somewhere where you've been very keen to come, and presumably, it's always been very good to you. What makes the UK, I guess, so special that you keep on coming back?
That's the $1 million question, man. If we knew what made it tick there, we'd be trying to do it everywhere, but we're just thankful that there's a place in the world where we can go and play our music and people come out and truly celebrate it with us. That's not to say that it doesn't happen in other places, because it does. But when you look at one demographic, if you were to do a pie chart of where does Black Stone Cherry do the best, the UK is going to be the biggest section of that, So, we, like you said, we did Wembley, we do the arenas, but why not go to the people? Why not come back and do a tour and celebrate, 20 years of the first record, and go to a bunch of places where most bands wouldn't go, So that's the plan, man. We're going to come in and do an evening with, and if you couldn't make it to us last tour, don't worry, we're coming as close to you as we can this time.
Blowing smoke signals through flashing lights, acting how I'm feeling and I'm on tonight. Moving in rhythm and breathing deep, talking in tongues, got no time for sleep.
And while presumably, it is a milestone to play Wembley, to play these big arenas, and seeing bands there is great. But sometimes seeing bands in more intimate,
I prefer, personally, on a personal level, my favorite venues are the ones like the Academy size. Like you go to Birmingham Academy, that's a little over 2,000 or so, I think, something like that. Somewhere around there. It's not a huge venue. But man, like places like that, the Manchester Apollo, where it's not an arena, and there may be the people in the very, very back may not feel like they're at a small gig, but it's better than being at an arena in the very, very back. You know what I mean? But those Academy and theater type rooms are some of my absolute favorite ones to play, man. They're just always a really, really good time.
And is this a full Blackstone Cherry set, or you said like an evening with Blackstone Cherry? Because I know you've done sort of like almost like acoustic tours and things like that. How will the evening pan out?
Well, I can't give away everything yet, but I can tell you it's going to be a whole hell of a lot of music, and the only band playing is us.
Oh, okay.
So, and that first album is going to be a big part of that as well. I mean, dude, to still be around 20 years after the first record came out, still being able to go tour and play those songs and people sing along is pretty special for us. So we want to make sure and give that album its due when we're there.
Is it its 20th anniversary this year then?
Yes.
It is?
Yes. This year's the 20th anniversary of that record.
Okay. Does that make you feel old? It makes me feel old.
Not really. I mean, hell, I'm 40. I'll be 41 this year. I turned 21 right before we went on tour for the first times, really. We were 20 when I turned 20 before we made the record. Ben turned 20 while we were making the record, so it's like, not really, I mean, maybe if we had gotten into the game later, in our late 20s or something when the band started, maybe I'd be like, damn, I feel old. I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel old when I wake up in the mornings and have to stretch, and, I stretch before we go on stage and stuff, so I don't pull any muscles or anything. But no, man, if anything, it makes me feel grateful and thankful that 20 years ago, we walked into a studio, didn't know shit from Shinola, and made a record. And 20 years later, people are selling out venues to come see us play and, you know, and honor that record. So it's unreal, man.